2016. Welcome to the Planning Commission of Daly City at this time. If I can have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, commissioners and staff. Good to see everyone again. Happy New Year. Okay. If anyone in the audience has any matters that they would like to address this evening, if you can kindly fill out a card over here in the back and send it up to us, and we will entertain your comments. And please try to limit your comments to about 2 minutes so we can make room for everyone. As of this time, I have 2 cards right now, so I'm sure I'll be getting some more. All right. Can I have a roll call, please?
Edelman.
Here.
Crump.
Here.
Tallarico. Here. Sylvester. Satori.
Here.
Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the election of officers.
I'd like to nominate Rick Crump for the chairman's position.
Second.
Okay, we have a nomination for Commissioner Crump by Edelman and second by Commissioner Tallarico. Any other nominations at this time? Being there is none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Commissioner Crump as chair for this coming year of the Planning Commission? Do we do roll call? No? Okay, sounds good. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Crump. And time for me to acquiesce then.
I think we play musical chairs here. Glenn.
Okay, so I'm kind of new at this. Tell me what to do. Where do I go?
Grab all your stuff.
Take all my stuff. Okay.
You don't have to go too far.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
At this time, the chair will entertain nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Howard Evelyn as vice chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Howard,
Congratulations,
you're
Howard.
vice chair.
Thank you. Oh, do I move again?
You can
No,
stay there.
no.
That's fine.
I'll give you my vacation list later
Okay.
so you know when you're going to serve. Thank you very much.
I can move later.
Oh, no.
The
excuse me.
minutes, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the meeting of November 4th, 2015?
I have none.
And how about the minutes of December 1, 2016? Could I have a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 1, Plan Development, PD 10-15-11-781, and Environmental Review, CEQA 10-15-11-782. Mr. Van Lunthuis.
Through the chair, I'd
Yep.
like to recuse myself from this because I live in too close a proximity to the development.
Thank you, Howard.
Oh. You bought it. What did you say? You bought it?
It's an old one.
All right.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. This is a preliminary plan review for the Point Martin Phase 2 plan development proposed on Carter Street. The overhead shows the location of the proposed development site. Again, it is located on Carter Street, which is located here. This is site plan's kind of oriented. The north would actually be to the right. Saddleback Condominiums is here, and Summit Ridge is here. The site is an approximately 17.82 acre site situated here. The area that's identified in the yellow is proposed as residential development, while the area in the green, just to provide an overview, would be proposed as permanent open space. This is a site photo looking to the south-southwest of the site, which is situated here. Just to provide the Planning Commission with some context, the area is characterized by existing single-family homes, newer subdivisions constructed in the 1990s and 2000s. This is the Saddleback development situated to the northwest of the proposed development site. This is Carter Street. So this is the plan development process overview. We are combining what the zoning ordinance requires is a sketch plan and a preliminary plan into the single preliminary plan review. The Planning Commission would consider it tonight, and the City Council would consider the preliminary plan on February 22nd, should the Planning Commission decide to forward the item to the Council. Of course, these are called preliminary plans because they're preliminary. We're basically looking at the land use concept, and that's what we're commenting on tonight. The preliminary plan is followed by a precise plan. In the case of this proposed development, there's a subdivision map that would be associated with that, as well as a CEQA review. And both the, there's a general plan amendment that would be required as part of this, the rezoning to plan development zone, the subdivision, and the CEQA review would all be coming at a later date back to the Planning Commission for review. So this slide shows an overview of the project. Essentially, the subject site was redesignated in 2013 when the city updated its general plan to residential low density. Prior to this time, it was designated office and retail for that sort of a use, and the decision was made at that time that actually this would be better served as a residential site. There were also open space preservation, there was also an open space preservation designation attributed to the site. At that time, it was unclear what would be residential and what would be open space. Now that we have a development concept in front of us, we know what will be open space and what could be residential. There are some minor boundary adjustments between those two land use designations that would need to be made, and therefore the general plan amendment would be required for that. But essentially, this is a 17.82 acre site. It consists of 48 existing lots. There are a number of property owners that are involved who have signed on to have the single applicant represent the subdivision. The proposal at this time is a 115 lot subdivision on a 7.93 acre portion of the site, consisting of, again, 48 lots. The density range that's allowed in the low density designation goes all the way up to 14.5, and that's what's proposed. The remaining 9.89 acres would be proposed as permanent open space. That open space would be owned by the homeowners association that would be established as part of the subdivision, so the maintenance of that would occur in perpetuity by that HOA. The rezoning and three tentative maps would again come later. One 37 lot map and two 39 lot maps would be processed by the Planning Division, Planning Commission, and City Council at a later date in this process. As the Planning Commission may recall, a master land use plan is required pursuant to the policies in the general plan for any development that requires a discretionary approval on the site, and the applicants are requesting the approval of that master land use plan as well. So this is a overview of the master land use plan that's proposed. Again, the open space area and the residential areas are shown in green and yellow, respectively. To orient the planning commissioners and public, this is Carter Street here, and Steve Corder Way is here. Access to the subdivision would be provided via a street network that's generally shown like this. It's a site plan overview. The green arrows are indicating, again, the access to the site. Again, off of Carter Street here. Steve Carter Way here, and a secondary access from Steve Carter leads to Carter Street in this location. So this is the proposed subdivision map, again consisting of 115 lots. The Planning Commission may recall that previous 15 lot subdivision was approved at this location here. It's not part of this map, but to provide some context to the commissioners and public, it's identified on the map. But this is the general arrangement of lots in this fashion. So the preliminary plan consideration consists of a review of the land use proposal, the circulation, and the overall site design. The project staff report highlights some of the major aspects of the site design, including the provision of roads and alleys, some analysis of parking as well. The parking, which is of course always something that we take a very close look at, is provided in the subdivision, of course. This slide shows an overview of the parking provision within the subdivision. So 63 detached homes would provide a 2-car garage plus a 2-car driveway spaces. So that's sort of the traditional parking provision, Daly City for a new home, resulting in 252 spaces. There are 33 smaller row-type homes that would provide a 2-car garage plus a 1-car driving space, so that would be a total of 99 spaces. And 19 smaller row-type homes providing 2-car garages for 38 parking spaces. And then 42 on-street parking spaces would also be provided, for example, for gas parking. So the total of that is 431 parking spaces within the proposed subdivision. The project, as it indicated previously, will require a CEQA analysis. At this stage, that's basically being formulated. And when we come back for the precise plan review, will be presented to the Planning Commission and the City Council. We're anticipating that a mitigated negative declaration would be appropriate for the subdivision, analyzing topics such as traffic, geotechnical, and biological impacts. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the master land use plan that we provided in the slide, as well as approve the preliminary plan for plan development number 70. If there are any questions, the staff is, of course, available to answer those, as well as a representative from CKS Engineering, the project applicant.
Gentlemen, questions for Mr. Van Lanka?
Yeah, just one, it says, you said smaller house. You went through a regular house, small house, and smaller house. I just want to get a picture of that. Say smaller row type, okay.
Right. So the smaller, the row type homes aren't necessarily different sizes, but some provide 2-car garage and 1-car driveway, and some just provide a 2-car garage.
Okay.
And that's and the applicants can speak to this further.
The gross square footage of the units change.
Or yeah, those row type homes would basically be the same number of square feet. We don't have the specific house plans in front of us at this point in time.
Right, this is preliminary.
It's preliminary. We're looking at the land use concept. The way that the development typically works is that the applicant, the developer, would find a home builder, and then they would come along and provide a more specific type of a dwelling unit, so we know what the square feet is.
Does this come back to the Planning Commission? If we, it does come back.
At the precise plan stage.
Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, when you talk of geotechnical and biological, what do you mean by that? Will you kindly elaborate it to us?
Sure. So the proposal, as the Planning Commission may note, is at a hillside location. So there'll be a certain amount of cut and fill that's required to implement subdivisions construction. The geotechnical analysis that'll be required as part of that would ensure, long-term slope stability. Of course, there are residential properties that sit upslope from this neighborhood. And the purpose of the geotechnical analysis is to ensure that the proposed retaining wall, the cut and fill proposal is going to be constructed in a method that guarantees long-term slope stability for the new occupants as well as persons living adjacent to the subdivision.
How about biological?
A biological assessment is something that actually has been provided in the past for this area, and that would also be included inside the environmental analysis.
When you talk about geotechnical about the soil, what can you say about the soil? Is it soft, hard, just like near Abalon, that it's soft the moment it rains, coming from the mountains?
The applicant could probably better answer that at this point in time. We're reviewing the land use layout in the preliminary plan, and more detailed analysis of the soil condition would occur as part of the precise plan and the environmental document that's prepared at that time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have anything, Glenn?
No.
Mike, very often with these kind of things, going back, well, this slide is with parking. Very often in this type of situation, I presume this would probably come in at the precise plan. When we have the plans, we require that the garage be used for parking in their CC&Rs. That's down
Absolutely.
the road?
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
right.
Does anyone have any questions for
I'm
the
okay.
applicant?
Thank you.
Okay,
This is the beginning.
let's open the public hearing. The first speaker is Mr. Howard Edelman. And Mr. Edelman, I would remind you, 2 minutes.
Yes, I will be sure. Commissioners, I just wanted to speak on behalf of both Summit Ridge Homeowners Association as well as a homeowner in the area that we support this planned development. We've been looking forward to something like this for some time. The main consideration that we had was fulfilled in this is that it is structured so that it fits within the neighborhood that's already existing there as far as the style, the layout. And the other thing is that it's pretty concise as far as street planning and the layouts of houses. So we just wanted to speak on, and I wanted to speak on behalf of supporting this application.
Thank you, Howard. Zinnia, you're on.
Thank you for giving me this time to speak. I'm a homeowner in Saddleback, also on the board, and I have several concerns. One about the land. There's natural springs running through this land. It impacts Saddleback. I see it every day. Any diversion of that could impact Saddleback. So I want to make sure that the geology is really looked at and not only abated for their development, but watching what it's going to do to Saddleback, because nature will be its own demand. That's one thing. The next thing is, I would ask that the city parking traffic put up some lights, some stop signs, some speed bumps, something to mitigate the heavy traffic that is going to be imposed on Carter Street. It's a wayfare to get to Guadalupe, to go east and west. I mean, it's just, we need more traffic control if this development is going to go forward. Other than that, what Howard said, I second.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Duran Garcia.
I'm a homeowner just above this particular development, and I'm concerned about the height of the buildings at the highest level on the side of San Bruno Mountain, just before it gets to the permanent open area. So I was just wondering if you could speak to that.
Well, I don't believe we know the height at this point, do we?
Well, typically, the zoning in a residential typical subdivision, this is a planned development zone, would be
Right.
30 feet maximum.
Right, yeah.
If the question is How visible would the houses below, the homes that sit upslope on Oak Ridge, if that's the
Yes,
specific
Oak Ridge,
question?
yeah.
They would quit, the new houses would sit at a substantially lower elevation than the back pad height of the existing subdivision up there. So the likelihood that, I mean, you'll
Okay.
see them, but they'd be downslope considerably.
Cool, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I happen to be a state board member of engineering, and I suppose that that place, there should be some sort of, in case you want really to have a developed and safe and situate that the welfare of the people that are well protected. We have to have some sort of a buffer zone wherein the water rainfall will not just go directly to the houses. There should be some sort of buffer. I think the engineer knows what I'm talking about. So more or less, it can protect also those coming from the top, going down, because it can erode. The soil can erode, and it can really damage a lot of houses, especially development like this. So if you can try to talk with the engineers about this, structural, or whether you have engineers here who can really talk about this, wherein the welfare of the people down can really be protected. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, I noticed in the reading on page 3, you do have it quite spelled out on geological problems. There are problems, and the city's well aware of it. So I would presume that planning and the city engineers would be putting that under a magnifying glass that says unstable, you know what I mean? So that's, in this document, the developer is well aware of the problems it's having.
I think what you're referring to is a comment letter provided on the project. That's
Okay.
Yeah, a little different from the staff report.
Yeah, but it's obvious, since there was previous developments with problems and this, so there is, I just want to express so people know, it's well aware, and there is really spelled out quite definitely what they want to see done.
If I may, Commissioner, those things will be gone into in detail in the geotechnical report that we'll all get to read down the road.
Well, yeah, just to let the public know, you've been up to snuff, everything's there.
Oh, absolutely. A geotechnical analysis is a absolute given at this location. It would be reviewed not by the city's engineering staff.
Sure.
Anything further?
No. Okay.
Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Could I have a motion that recommends, wait a minute. A motion to approve the master land use plan.
Motion to approve.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
Are we going to bring up the applicant to address some of the concerns I think Ms. Zenia had for an answer?
The applicant is available.
Okay, great. Through the chair, if I may. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Sorry about your loss, and welcome to your.
Oh, thank
your
you so
old.
much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
See
One
you guys all
about,
back.
thank you. One of our citizens brought up a concern about the natural springs and
Yes.
traffic concerns about lights and speed bumps. Can,
Yes, I noted all of your observations, and thank you for quoting it. I've done a presentation before several organizations in the Bay Shore across these last 2 or 3 months, and she was present at one of them, and she was very gracious. And one of her colleagues actually made known that there is an underground water going through Saddleback diagonally. I don't think, well, yeah, I guess you do have it there. I can point it out to you. It starts from above there and then runs off of here. It runs sort of in a diagonal manner there, and that their homeowners actually hear some water. Those in the lower levels of that actually hear that. So I had gone back after that presentation. I went back to look at the Harding Lawson Associates geotechnical review. We actually went into archives and pulled all of by the way, the geologic concerns are being covered even more. Yeah. It's a given, as Mike had said. We actually went to Saddleback, which is now present for 30 years successfully. They faced the exact same issues that we did, as did Summit Ridge to a very significant extent, and examined what is occurring there. What occurs with all subdivisions is a thing called subdrains, is a phenomenon, and that's for permanent drainage at a very deep level, oftentimes many dozens of feet below, sometimes very near the surface. And what she's almost certainly hearing is that diagonal subdrain that was placed there at sort of a low vector to where all the surround, and then of course it was graded above that. So you're hearing, and you'll hear that, and you want to keep hearing that. If you don't hear that, then you've got problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, as some of you may know. So that addresses the issue with regard to that. Commissioner, you mentioned with regard to traffic. We're working very closely with city staff and city's consultant. There's, of course, there's a city engineer. There's also the city has its own traffic engineer. The city also has its own outside traffic consultant that holds the model for all the intersections in the city, all traffic and all of those data points. And we've been engaged with them going back to the mid part of last year to put forth a comprehensive traffic impact analysis. It's going to be a very large document, very comprehensive. They tasked us, as well as their outside consultant, to evaluate intersections going as far as Geneva and Bayshore, as far as Brisbane over at Guadalupe Canyon, and those in closer. So it's a very comprehensive analysis as to the current and also future post-development, how that looked like with these numbers, and to also address the lady's concern, what it will look like when the traffic is in here, and what mitigations the city's traffic engineer and the city's engineer will both not just assess this, but they'll also come up with, okay, you guys need to do this, this, and this to alleviate any problems on Carter. We're fully prepared for that, and we're fully anticipating having to do that. Let's see, you had mentioned, well, I think I've covered the some parts with regard to the soil. I think a gentleman mentioned up above on Oak Ridge, which is up here, two things to address to him. We introduced in the design of this a 300-foot buffer. That is to say 300 feet from the back of the lots to the back of their lots. Building to building is closer to 400 feet. It's a huge separation between them. Another aspect, I'm not sure if it was him or somebody else mentioned, had to do with separation of heights. Oak Ridge is roughly at 550-foot elevation level. It's a very slight graduation. The highest ones here are going to be on the order of 350. So we're talking 200 feet from pad to pad, a little bit for a story, but we're talking, and incidentally, regarding heights, these are all going to be two-story above garage. Okay. That is to say, the garage will be only accessible from the front, whereas from the opposite side will be the entry. Another aspect that somebody brought up had to do with the smaller, it was more of a comment. We're going to be introducing something in these smaller units here, which are going to be on the order of about 1,500 to 1,700 feet, and we're calling them towns, although they are detached single-family homes. We're going to be introducing a very attractive concept called paseos, which is where the entry is on a winding green walkway with no cars in between the faces of the units, and then the garages are entered through the rear via use of these lanes. That really helps on traffic, it helps on access, also lends just a terrific aesthetic, especially that's going to be a separate type of neighborhood. I'll circle it again, this little area over here, as opposed to here, which is more traditional and emulating a great deal what Summit Ridge has done in the past.
I think it should be made clear that these streams are not particularly unique to this site.
No.
This whole ridge, all the way to Point Pacific, both Point Pacific and Village in the Park, have streams that run right down through the middle of them. So they're all along that ridge, and they've been dealt with very successfully because those developments have been there for, well, Village in the Park is, 30 years old.
Yeah. One last comment with regard to density. The density in toto of everything is actually only 6.5 dwelling units. As you can see, close to 2/3 is going to be permanent open space, and that would be by a restriction and zoning as well. I think that I'm not sure if that addresses all your questions, but I'm here
Thank you so
to
much.
answer
I think
anything
you've
else.
gone over and above. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
All right.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank
Glad
you so much.
your
Mr.
battery's working, I hope, now, right?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Wait, he knows everything. I mean,
There are no secrets with this man.
Oh,
But-
Your phone was on speakerphone when that was taking place, so we were all privy to that,
oh my goodness.
sort of.
Oh, dear.
All right.
Let's see, we have a motion on the table, correct? Needing a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Could I have a motion to approve the preliminary plan for Plan Development PD 70?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sylvester,
Yes.
Talarico,
Yes.
Satori,
Yes.
Crump.
Yes. Mr. Edelman, would you join us?
Yes.
Yes.
Enough resting up. Now come do work. The next item on the agenda is zone change ZC 115-10255 preliminary plan review. Mr. Van Wonthausen.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. This is a request by BKF engineers representing the Bayshore Elementary School District to rezone the existing portion of, or the entire Robertson Intermediate School site to plan development zoning. I'm going to, of course, give a presentation on the project, and then the school district itself also has a brief presentation that it's going to share with the Planning Commission. So for any of you who are not familiar with where Robertson Intermediate School is, it is at the eastern end of Martin Street, located here. This is Martin Street coming, moving from west to east. This is the Midway Village County Housing Authority development here. And the intermediate school is presently situated at the end of Martin Street, generally located here. The Linda Vista subdivision flanks the site to the south and east, generally here. This is a photograph of the intermediate school as it currently exists at the end of Martin Street. The Planning Commission and public may care to note that the current red curbing on the north side of the street here, I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the subdivision design. Again, this is a preliminary plan review, similar to the previous item. Precise plan will be coming back for Planning Commission and City Council consideration. I think I forgot to mention that. This is a photograph looking north at the Midway Village development site. Again, this is a county housing facility. Brandon Court is the name of this street. This is looking to the east, southeast, down Martin Street. The Schwerin intersection is behind the photograph. Existing single-family houses, of course, flank the site to the would be the west here, off to the right side of the picture. The school site begins here. One of the things that we are requiring is a sidewalk connection here. We'll talk about that in the subdivision design. We provided a photograph of the Linda Vista subdivision located to the east of the project site. Even though the intermediate school property does not abut the, Linda Vista Drive, we're providing this photograph because there's a roadway connection, a public street that would connect to this Linda Vista Drive from the proposed subdivision. So very similar to the previous item, this is a preliminary plan review. We're combining the sketch plan and the preliminary plan for the Planning Commission and City Council consideration. Should the Planning Commission advance the item, the City Council would consider the preliminary plan on February 22nd. And of course, the preliminary plan is followed by the precise plan consideration, at which time we would propose a mitigated negative declaration. This would be anticipated later this year, definitely at the earlier part of the year is our hope for this project. So this site provides a project overview. It's a subdivision of a 6.96 acre property for 71 single-family detached homes. The lot sizes are proposed to range from 1,975 square feet to 4,245 square feet. There is an extension of Martin Street as a public street at a reduced, slightly reduced dimension all the way to Linda Vista Drive. And we provided the slide showing the photograph of Linda Vista Drive for, again, that reason. Private driveways, 5 of them to be exact, would be provided off of the Martin Street extension, serving units in a clustered courtyard arrangement, 162 parking spaces. We'll go through all of this in more detail. This is a site plan. Again, this is Martin Street as it currently exists. This is where the arrow is the location of the intermediate school presently. A portion of this site is designated in the city's general plan as public facilities, and another portion of the site is designated as residential low-medium density. The applicant's proposing residential low density in this project, and so we have to redesignate the whole site to that designation, as well as rezone the entire property to plan development zoning to allow for the accommodation of the lots in the proposed configuration. Presently, the city has a 2,500 square foot minimum lot size, and this goes below that, so therefore plan development zoning is required. So going back to the site plan arrangement, Martin Street would be extended from its current terminus at this location as a public street, continuing all the way to Linda Vista Drive. There is an existing stormwater detention facility, city-owned, that is located generally here. The city and the developer are in conversation right now about what it would take to make sure, of course, that this detention facility retains all of its all the properties that it needs to remain effective for containing stormwater. There's also the potential that benches may be provided as a part of that to try and offset the impact of building a public street through it. This is something that we've had some preliminary conversations about and would probably appear as conditions of approval at the precise plan stage. So going back to the street arrangement, again, 5 private, what are called lanes, are provided essentially here: lane A, lane B, lane C, D, and E, that provide access to the clustered courtyard lotting configuration. This lotting configuration is somewhat unique in Daly City. It's more prevalent in the East Bay. BKF, the project engineer, has successfully designed and implemented this type of subdivision in other municipalities, and so we feel confident that it would work, of course, in this context. Yeah, so that's essentially the site plan overview. The red curb that we mentioned previously in the photograph is existing and will remain red curbed. So there would be no parking on the east side of the street, or rather the north side of the street here, although parking spaces would be provided, public parking spaces provided on the south side of the street, generally here. This is just a close-up of the courtyard clustered plans for lanes A and B. There are some street dimensions provided here. These would be private courtyards, so they would be maintained by the HOA. The city's obligation would end at the public street. The current cul-de-sac geometric would be eliminated here, and it would, this Martin Street would be straightened. These graphics are, for any of you who are interested in the details of the subdivision, are important in providing what pedestrian access would look like inside the neighborhood shown in the dark gray. It's important that pedestrian access be provided to each of the units, and the pedestrian circulation is actually very good. The only thing we've noted is that we may require some sidewalk connection along the side of lot 51 here to provide a continuous access for persons who are, walking in and out of the neighborhood. These are the clusters for lanes D and E. So this slide provides a parking overview. There are 71 detached homes. Each would provide a 2-car garage for 142 parking spaces. 10 of the homes have 2 additional driveway spaces for 20 additional spaces. And then there would be 35 on-street parking spaces. So 197 total parking spaces provided. As I'd explained previously, there's a rezoning to plan development required. There is a general plan amendment that also would be required to bring the whole site into conformity with the proposed density. There are no specific designs for houses that are currently proposed. There are conceptual renderings of what the houses might look like. We required that just to provide the Planning Commission and the City Council some sort of a preliminary architectural review of what might the small lotting concept be able to produce architecturally, and very traditional type architecture. So there's nothing that's very different about the architecture. But design review committee would ultimately be approval would ultimately be required when a developer is identified, and they'll have their own unique architectural style that they'd want to bring. The ultimate builder would, and that would go to the design review committee. So just like the previous preliminary plan, the commission reviewed the considerations of the land use, circulation, and overall site design. The project engineer, BKFs, work very closely with the city staff in ensuring that the site design is something that's acceptable to the staff, and so we do have a site plan that works very well, we feel, and we are recommending approval of it. An environmental assessment would be performed, of course, prior to the precise plan stage. It would cover topics such as traffic and biological assessments. We are recommending that the Planning Commission take the following action: approve the preliminary plan for Plan Development 71. It's just coincidence that the Plan Development Zone number equals the number of proposed lots.
Yeah. Easy.
If there's any questions, the civil engineer is, of course, available to answer any of those, as well as the city staff, of course. The school district, as I indicated previously, also has a short presentation that they'll provide now, and unless the planning
Why
commissioners
don't
have any
they
immediate.
provide it now, and then we'll
Okay.
question accordingly.
You can just tell me when to advance the slide.
Oh, okay. Good evening,
Good evening.
Chair and Commissioners. I'm Audra Pittman. I'm the Superintendent for the Bayshore Elementary School District. I'd first like to thank the city staff for allowing us the opportunity to come and give you a short presentation this evening. I know that it's not the traditional or normal route that's taken, and I appreciate the fact that they understand that school districts don't normally do this, and giving us this opportunity to share our big vision for our community, because it's much more than just asking for entitlements for the 71 units. I'd first like to start with introducing my team that's here. We have our board president, Joy Gutierrez Pilari, our architect, Paul Bunton, consultant, Jerry Sewich, and then, as already previously mentioned, Dan Schaefer, our engineer, and all are available for questions should you have any. Why are we? Look cute. Already went over that. So why are we here? As you may be aware, Bayshore Elementary School District is a very small school district in our community. We have right now 385 students that are serviced in 2 schools, Bayshore Elementary and Robertson Intermediate. Our schools were built in the 40s and 50s, and they have not been modernized since then. So why are we here? In 2014, our community overwhelmingly passed the first bond in the history of our district, $6 million. We had the highest pass rate in the state of California at that time, with an 83% pass rate. And it gave us $6 million to make capital improvements on our schools. What we realized was that our students deserved so much more than just making capital improvements on schools that were built in the 40s and 50s. And so we decided that we could take that bond money and leverage it by surplusing one of our properties, so we chose Robertson, and selling it and taking the money, the proceeds from that, coupling it with the bond, and giving us the opportunity to build a brand new TK-8 facility, 21st century learning environment for our students. This new school will provide classroom space for an additional 164 students, so we're accounting for expansion, because we know that once it's built, we already provide a quality education, but people who move into the area are gonna wanna come to our school as well, and so we're being proactive in expanding the space as well. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mr. Bunton to talk about the designs of the school and show you what that big picture is, so that you can see what we have planned for our small community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Paul Bunton, CEO of BCA Architects. I'll be brief, but I think it was important, as Dr. Pittman said, to provide a little bit of context to the Commission about why the district is doing this. And it's really three projects. It's the subdivision, 71-unit subdivision, which is before you tonight, but it's also funding the new school, and it's also providing affordable housing to the community. So it's really three projects that we're working together with the city to go forward on. So I just want to briefly show you the images. Mike, if you could just advance. I'm just going to go quickly through here. So what this vision is to bring a state-of-the-art school to Daly City, a 21st century learning environment that is going to be here for the next 70 years or so. As Dr. Pittman said, the schools, that as we evaluated them, the $6 million that the community unanimously supported is just a Band-Aid for these two schools. And so the vision here is really broader than that. Dr. Pittman's vision really is to bring this school district to life with a brand new facility. So just keep going through, Mike, I'll just be quick. Just quickly to share with you that the concept is to take down not just the Robertson site, but to take down the Bayshore site and rebuild this on this 2+ acres in a 2-story approach. So much of an urban style design with multiple stories on the property lines. We're bringing the parents off the surface streets into parking lots and drop-off pickup zones, and really providing a quality educational environment for the students. Just a couple of other images: gardens, outdoor learning areas, stages, multi-purpose room that would be a community asset here, another gymnasium in the community would just be tremendous for the community. Some other images. This environment is full of outdoor learning spaces, really filled with learning labs and all kinds of technology-rich environments. The entry, combination of metal panels and other urban materials to shape this form, curvilinear forms of picking up on the location to the ocean and so on. Just a quick thing on the affordable housing. The district and the city and the county housing authority are in the process of working through a solution where the county wants to rebuild the Midway Village. And so the three parties are working together to integrate 18 affordable housing units. That is really 5 more than what the Robertson site that's before you tonight would generate with the city's 20% affordable housing rule. So we're actually getting more affordable housing with this tri-party agreement that is still in works right now. So I just wanted to put it in context for you, this three project exciting thing for Daly City. Okay. Next steps, we're really working through final issues with the city manager's office on affordable housing and getting the county housing authority in agreement with that. And so we're hoping to be back before you with a precise plan in the next month, 2 months, something like that. No pressure, Mike. And that's really it. I just kind of felt like it was important to give you the context of the whole vision here that this school district has put together. President of the board, Joy, would you come up and say a few things, please? Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Joy Gutierrez, and I'm the president of the Bayshore Elementary School District Board of Education. You can undoubtedly see that our district may be small in numbers, but we have a big vision for the future of our students and our community. On behalf of the Board of Education, we would like to thank you for supporting our district. We look forward to working with the City of Daly City and bringing this innovative new school to our community, as well as the new 71 single-family homes and 18 affordable housing units. Thank you.
Thank you. Question?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Just want to commend the Bayshore School District for getting the twofer, taking 2 old, 1 new, and actually having the county and the city work together. I'm very impressed with the idea of affordable housing included. And congratulations for a good, good thing.
Oh, I'm in full accord with this project, but my question here is, what is your timeline to realize the operational of this school?
For opening of the school?
When do you think will this be realized?
We'd like to cut the tape in August of 2017.
Oh, that's good. Thank you very much.
Work with a sense of urgency.
Okay, good.
While you're up there,
Yes.
this is not relevant to this hearing, but what do the initials TK, I presume,
Transitional kindergarten.
thank you,
So-
and what is that?
So, in our day, you went to school when you were 5.
Yep.
And the state of California had a cut date of December 1st. And what they found was that 4-year-olds between September and December 1st some were ready and some were not quite ready for kindergarten. And so 4 years ago, they started backing that start date up by a month each year. So now we're at a point that in order for you to enroll in kindergarten, you have to turn 5 by September 1st. And if you turn 5 between September and December, you can be enrolled in a transitional kindergarten class. So in essence, it's 2 years of school, transitional kindergarten, which is higher than preschool, and the school district provides it. Then you go into kindergarten, and then you continue down the traditional path.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Any further questions, gentlemen?
I want to go back to school.
Okay. I will open the public hearing. I have no cards. Could I have a motion to close it?
Just one last question.
Oh.
What will be the population of this school? The number of
The number of
Kids, yeah.
students,
Mhm.
we are building it to house 568 students.
Wow, that's big.
And currently, we have 378.
Well, thank you very much for the information.
Through the chair, actually, I have some questions for the developer of the housing project.
Oh, well, by all means.
For the civil engineer?
Well, let me give them to you,
Okay.
Mike, and then you can see if we need expertise to address them. One of them was, you had brought up the Martin Street, or the Martin Street extension over the area where the storm water is being accumulated at this point in time. Is that just a holding area, a reservoir for storm water?
Yes.
Does it go into the city water supply at some point, or is that just evaporated?
You know, I'd imagine that at some point it percolates down into the city water supply, but I'm actually not absolutely sure.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was, just there until water went away, or if it was actually used. We're still in a drought.
I'd imagine it goes at some point down to the water table.
It doesn't end up at water, wastewater.
I would hope not.
Yeah.
The second question I had was, regarding the private lanes, has the North County Fire Department looked at this as far as fire truck access, and what was their response?
Yes, the fire department has taken a look at the subdivision, and they're favorable in terms of it working. It's
Okay.
the applicant's civil engineer has met specifically with them, so.
Okay, that answers the two questions I have. Thank you.
Another question, just follow up. This is about traffic management, traffic in Carter Street. Every time I go and visit some of my friends there, Carter Street is becoming so tight because it's 2-lane. Is there any possibility that the traffic management of the city can expand a little bit more of the street, like another lane?
Well, the general plan circulation element doesn't identify any lane widening of Carter Street
Yes.
at this time.
Can we, probably in the future, can we have a plan for this? So, because it's a growing population in that area.
Well, there would have to be some, it would be a very expensive undertaking. Would require the city acquire private property to complete. We'd have to have a pretty compelling reason to undertake something like that. But it's something that, the way that works is that during the general plan update process, an idea like that is included and is evaluated by the city's engineering staff, and then ultimately goes into the circulation element.
Because, Mr. Chairman, you have to look into the future also. It's not because everything is okay now, but for me, you can just imagine, right 9 o'clock in the evening, there are a lot of cars parked now in Carter, if you will notice that, especially near Saddleback. So we have to address that potential problem. Not as of this time, probably it's okay, but we don't have to ask the people to complain here. So that's my concern, Your Honor.
Through the chair, if I may make a comment before we vote, I would like to thank the folks who appeared today regarding this project. I think it was very creative to come up and use that $6 million rather than piecemeal and keep fixing something and keep fixing something. You're going to just completely tear it down and start new. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to remain calm. I think this should have came to us and we should have started this yesterday. And Commissioner Tallarico, I did hear you, and you kind of took the thoughts out of my mind. And the way I feel about this, I wish I can go back to kindergarten, because I would love to go there. But anyway, it's just a comment, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for entertaining.
We are done? Okay.
Yes.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the master land use plan.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the preliminary plan for Plan Development PD 71.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Edelman,
Yes.
Sylvester,
Yes.
Tallarico,
Yes.
Satori,
Yes.
Crump.
Yes. Thank you all for coming.
Are we invited to the ribbon cutting?
Next year, huh? Next year.
Item number 3, use permit UPR 8-15-11316 and design review DR 8-15-11317. Michael.
Yes, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this is a proposal by In-N-Out Burger to construct a new restaurant at 372 Gellert Boulevard. A use permit is required because the restaurant has a drive-through facility, and of course, design review is required because a new restaurant's being constructed. The existing site location is generally here. This is Gellert Boulevard here. This is Hickey Boulevard here, where the arrow is, and Ceremony Boulevard is here. Just to provide some context, the Alta Ceremony Shopping Center is here. This was a previous fitness center, which has been reconstructed as a Chinese hospital here, and the subject site is, of course, the Sizzler restaurant that would be torn down and rebuilt as an In-N-Out burger. This is a photograph of the site. The Sizzler restaurant, of course, located here. One thing to note in this photograph is the Cypress Point neighborhood located upslope from the proposed restaurant location. This photograph provides some additional site context. The Alta Ceremony Shopping Center is located here. In the foreground of the photograph is a shared driveway that the shopping center and the restaurant would share. It's located here. Again, the Cypress Point residential development here, of course, Gellert Boulevard. This is the reconstructed Chinese hospital located to the south of the proposed restaurant, just to provide some additional site context. Again, shared driveway located in the foreground here. Cypress Point neighborhood. This photograph's actually from Hickey Boulevard, but just to show townhouse development location. Generally would be the proposed restaurant would be downslope this area. So this is a proposal to construct a 3,867 square foot In-N-Out restaurant with a drive-through to replace, of course, the Sizzler that exists today. The restaurant would have a 77-person seating capacity, a drive-through for 18 cars, and a parking lot for 60 cars. The current parking requirement based on the number of square feet in the restaurant is 57 spaces, so the proposed number of parking spaces actually exceeds the required number of spaces, so that's just something to note. The hours of operation for the restaurant would be 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Sunday through Thursday, and 10 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. on Friday and Saturday.
Michael, do we know what the current hours of operation of the Sizzler were?
I do not know that, no. I would imagine they're,
After 9 o'clock.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, 9, 10. So the overhead shows the proposed site plan. It's similar and different from the Sizzler. The proposed restaurant location, like the Sizzler, is located in the southern portion of the site. But of course, the parking configuration is much different. The Sizzler is generally here, and this restaurant would be located more to the southerly portion of the site. This is Gellert Boulevard here. Again, there are 2 shared driveways that are right in, right out, meaning that there is no way to access northbound Gellert from either driveway. And those are situated again here, shared with the Alta Serramonte Shopping Center, and here shared with the Chinese Hospital. The store itself is situated here, and the 18 vehicle queue is situated on the west side of the site, so generally here. As noted in the staff report, the project has supplied a full traffic study just to ensure that the traffic impacts are something that are not something that would knock it out of a categorical exemption for CEQA. The traffic study, in addition to analyzing comprehensively just the level of service on impacts to adjacent intersections, analyzed the vehicle queue length here using other stores on the peninsula. Of note, the Daly City store was not used in that analysis because that store is considered somewhat different. Do you have a question?
Oh, no, yeah, well, I was just going to ask you, we went to San Carlos. What about you said is excused because why?
Well, the Daly City location is considered to be somewhat different from the other locations on the peninsula. It's in a more suburban setting. The existing Daly City location has freeway visibility that this does not. So the thought is that it's somewhat different. But in terms of vehicle queue, that store in Daly City provides 12, not including the driveways leading to it. This provides 18. Using the analysis of the 3 stores that are in Millbrae, San Carlos, and Redwood City, it was determined that there was actually a 21 space was the maximum that any of those stores observed for a vehicle queue length in the greatest time of impact.
I don't know if this is proper, but you're saying that Daly City store has a queue length of what?
It has a queue length of 12, not including the driveways.
12
leading to it.
besides the 22 that are across Washington Street. This is what I'm getting to.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll bring it up later, but you're
Sure.
at 12.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, to get back to the site plan, there's an 18 vehicle queue length. There was a 21 space, the maximum impact observed in the traffic study. And this site could accommodate, however, 3 additional vehicles. Of course, it wouldn't be ideal because the vehicles would back into the parking area, but the 3 vehicles can be accommodated in this space here where there would be no impact to vehicles pulling out. It is, of course, a paramount concern to us to make sure that we don't have vehicles that are queuing into the street. This is a situation that, of course, we want to avoid. We want to also be fair to the applicant and make sure that we're not requiring an excessive vehicle queue that's not going to get used. And to address the concern, why the Daly City store is not something that's, included in the traffic analysis in terms of the vehicle queue, the city staff agreed that the other stores, because of their setting, are most like this particular location. It should be noted that should the vehicle queue become greater, there's a very sufficient number of cars that can back up onto the site. And this is something that's different from the existing location in Daly City. So that's something that's very notable. Of course, we don't want that to happen. We don't want vehicles queuing to the drive-through in a parking lot.
Well, it would be better than out on
Out onto
Howard
the street.
Boulevard.
Right. Right. But we worked for this reason closely with the applicants to make sure that the vehicle queue length was maximized.
Yeah, but you have a lot of cars that you could fit around and go south in that parking lot there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was a paramount concern to the staff, and that's a whole discussion of this is in the staff report for this reason. A secondary concern, and there are a number of concerns, and we'll go through them in some detail. And the first are obviously related to traffic. So there's the vehicle queue. There is the issue of the shared driveways. The shared driveway with the Ultimate Ceremony Shopping Center we consider not to be a real issue. The driveway is not particularly heavily used. It's set far back from the intersection of Gellert and Hickey, far enough so that it should not be impacted. The shared driveway at the southern end of the site, adjacent to the Chinese hospital, which just recently completed construction, was somewhat more of a concern to us. And so we required that the traffic study specifically evaluate operations at this intersection. And one of the things, and we actually included the Chinese hospital itself in some of the discussions, not related to scoping the traffic study necessarily, but after the traffic study was developed, and coming up with potential solutions to ensuring that vehicular conflict between cars entering and exiting the in and out and those entering and exiting the hospital did not, or were meant that conflict was minimized. Because as you can see, vehicles entering and exiting sharing the same driveway could be sort of a problem. One of the things that we came up with was the need, so In-N-Out had initially proposed their pole sign at this location, which would kind of indicate to the motorist that this is the main entrance. You're driving by, hey, there's an In-N-Out here. If you didn't notice the restaurant, the sign, may allude to that. That's the main entrance there. And what we determined is that maybe the sign should be located actually here, so that motorists passing by would identify this is the primary entrance, thereby adding the option or making that the primary entrance to the facility.
Good idea.
So that was one thing that we'd come up with. Another was adding signs at the end of the drive-through exit lane on the south side of the exit lane to indicate that that another exit path to Gellert existed at the north end of the site. And that'll be indicated not only in words but graphically to tell motorists exiting the drive-through that, hey, you can actually come over here to exit the site as well. So we're trying to do everything we can to deflect vehicles from what could be a busy driveway. One good thing is that the evening peak hours of operation between the hospital and In-N-Out are not not at the same times of the day. We have more of that problem during the midday peak. But at that time, the traffic in the street should be somewhat reduced because people are at work, at school, et cetera. So some of the peaks are different. So we're comforted somewhat in that. The Planning Commission should note, of course, that there is a condition that the city's traffic engineer can reevaluate or will reevaluate the project after a 6-month duration. We want to make sure that we don't do it too soon, that the restaurant's being evaluated at a time when people are coming to a new restaurant, because there's naturally going to be a lot of traffic surrounding that. So that's why the 6 months and not 2 months. So this reevaluation occurs, and should there be a need, we can actually take measures to stripe the street for no blocking the traffic lane. And the reason for this and the concern is that vehicles would stack up from the intersection of Hickey and Gellert and block this intersection, thereby impeding access to both of these sites and impeding the ability for northbound travelers to make a left into either site. from the left-hand turn pocket here. So that's something that could be coming, but it's not an initial installation at this time. There are conditions related to painting stop bars on both driveway exits and having a keep clear zone here as well to make sure that cars are not blocking the intersection. We wouldn't want a situation where there are vehicles blocking this area while cars are trying to exit the street and enter either side. So this is something that we've tried to manage through the conditions of approval, and which are essentially paint striping, stop bars, and a keep clear zone in that area. So that's traffic in a nutshell. There's a whole traffic study, and there's a detailed discussion of the potential traffic impacts in the staff report. There are some other potential impacts related to the operation of a restaurant at this location. Indicated in the previous slides, the location of the Cypress Point neighborhood to the west. We've required scrubbers that are air emission scrubbers be installed so that smoke doesn't affect those residents. I'm going to go to the next slide. We have a potential issue with noise and light also impacting those residents. And we have, through the conditions of approval, required, this is the landscape plan for the proposed restaurant, we have required a significant upgrade to the amount and type of trees that are actually going to be placed into this hillside. This is the proposed landscape plan, and we really thought this needed to be bumped up with larger initial plantings, a 24-gallon or 24-inch box, rather, trees of an evergreen specimen, to make sure that as time goes by, these trees fill in at a really good density, accounting for some of them dying and not working out. We wanted to make sure we had a really good tree density there to try and mitigate some of the impacts that could be associated with the restaurant, i.e. the light and the noise impacts. So we've taken a close look at the proposal and tried to make sure that the neighbors would be impacted in a minimal way. The building elevations are very similar to in and outs that planning commissioners may be familiar with, including the Daly City Store. We haven't had a whole lot of conditions of approval on this. We required a wainscot veneer that a veneer exists at the existing store in a different format, and we've required that this store also incorporate that architecturally very minor change. Tile roofs, pretty typical to an in-and-out high-quality architectural style.
Mike, I forgot, how tall is the tallest point in this?
I'm actually not sure. Let's see, the architect may be able to answer that. This is probably 28 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
So just like all use permits that we present to the Planning Commission, the considerations are the context to adjacent uses. Of course, we've talked about some of the impacts to the residential neighbors and the hospital site characteristics, the utility infrastructure capability. All the infrastructure exists in Gellert Boulevard to support this. Parking and vehicle ingress and egress, we've talked about that. Economic development objectives, ultimate site use of, or the ultimate use of this site was, very likely another restaurant or retail type use. We'd be dealing with these similar type of issues. Of course, with an in and out, as the staff report indicates, we take a very close look just because we know what the potential traffic impact could be. So, that's something that we looked at, but in some way, this does fulfill an economic development objective to bring more people to the area, which is, of course, good for the retailers in the area. We talked about some of the other impacts already, menu board operations, parking lot lighting, the noise associated with vehicles, the outdoor speakers. There are specific conditions of approval that relate to these. They're similar or the same as those that were imposed on the Steak and Shake restaurant. They're formulated at that time. Site design issues, drive-through queue length we talked about, driveway blockage we've already talked about. The staff is recommending the Planning Commission take the following actions: affirm the environmental assessment, adopt the findings, and approve the use permit and the design review. If there's any questions, of course, the city staff is available to answer any of those. The city traffic engineer is available, the applicant and the applicant's architect are also available to answer any questions the planning commissioners may have.
Let's start with this end.
Okay.
Yes, please.
This end has some questions. One of the things, Michael, that you had mentioned is that they're going to be using the existing entrances from the adjacent parking areas on Gellert Street to enter both for the drive-through but also for the parking. It looks to me, and I'm sure the traffic engineer has looked at this, but it looks to me like that's creating some really bad pinch points. Should, not even just so much should the car queuing go beyond the scope of that, but allowing people who want to just park and go into the restaurant. It is an issue with the current Daly City in and out, where if you even want to go into the parking lot, it's very difficult to get past the cars that are queued in the lane. And this looks like something that we could mitigate with possibly another driveway in the center part of the parking lot off of Gellert Street, so that people could get in and out through another location. So that would be one suggestion that I might make. The other question I had is a little bit more on the aesthetics. I know in and out, and this the applicant probably would address if you don't know, always has a pair of palm trees out in front of the restaurant, and I don't see that in the drawings on where that would be placed, so I'm more curious than anything else as far as where that might be located. So we could ask the applicant when we get to that point.
Well, no, why don't we invite the applicant up and
That
get your
sounds,
question answered?
sounds good.
Is that all your questions?
And then the other is regarding the impact to Cypress Point as far as noise, light. I noticed from the exterior drawing, it looks like there's a covered driveway for part of the portion, but not all of it. Am I reading that correctly?
Covered driveway.
It looks like.
Oh, yeah, well.
The
that's-
part adjacent to the building is covered,
Yeah,
but
but
around the
most of
back
it's not.
is open.
Yeah, that's actually, that's
Okay.
true.
Because I'm sure the covered part is going to be probably quieter and less light intrusive than the other, but it's located next to the, what's the business
The
next door?
hospital.
The hospital versus being next to the residential neighborhood. So if there's something that could be done in that regard as far as, providing a little bit more of a blockage.
Okay. Well, one thing to note on that is that the west side of this drive-through lane is actually flanked by a pretty significant retaining wall. I believe that is 9 feet at its tallest in this area and going down to 2 feet in this area. So a good number of these vehicles would actually be behind a retaining wall. And of course, as I mentioned, the city staff's proposed a condition of approval requiring a very significant upgrade in the number of new trees that would be planted on the hill in between
So
that
those-
retaining wall
Those will be behind the retaining wall and
the Cypress
Point
property line.
property. Okay.
Yeah, I believe the tree spacing's 1 to 20 or 25 feet, which is pretty dense, and with 24-inch box trees.
And the types of trees are
They'd be
dense as well?
evergreen. Yeah, they'd probably be some sort of a Monterey pine, something that's native
it.
to the area and fast-growing.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Didn't you have one for the applicant?
Actually, well, the applicant was the palm trees, but I don't know if we want to gather and group them or whatever you'd like to
Come
do.
forward. You might as well, we'll put you in the hot seat.
There you go.
We have a driveway.
Good evening, Commissioners, new chairman. My name is, for the record, my name is Ron Voley. I'm the real estate manager for In-N-Out Burger. Our address is 13502 Hamburger Lane in Baldwin Park, California. Yes, Hamburger Lane. I've been the real estate manager for over 20 years. That means I've been before this group a few years ago for the entitlement of the first In-N-Out Burger, and I'm happy to answer a lot of questions about that. It turned out to be far more successful than we envisioned, and we also thought that we could get some
Yeah.
we also thought that we could get some other locations in the area, particularly Tanforan Mall in South San Francisco, and we've had some challenges in doing that. But first, I wanted to just say a tiny little bit about the company. I'm not sure everyone knows. Our company started back in 1948 by Harry and Esther Snyder, and if anybody wanted to order food from their car, at that time it was car hops. And so we became the first California drive-through. We've only served hamburgers for all those years. We continue to do that. And our mission statement on the back of our business card really kind of says it all about our company. We really exist to provide the freshest, highest quality foods and services for profit in a sparkling, clean environment where our customers are our most important asset. Typically, if you go to our restaurant, you'll find that we attempt to be very, very friendly. We attempt to keep our restaurant, our facility, and our parking lot very, very clean. And we believe that cleanliness extends not only in the kitchen that you can see from the drive-through lane, but also our restrooms, our dining areas, our parking lots, and maybe down the street. We attempt to promote from within and offer training for all our employees so everyone gets the opportunity to grow into a restaurant manager. We pay substantially above minimum wage. We continue to do that, and we believe that we want to try and add to the community as well. I just want to be very brief on that because I'd like to get to some of your issues and questions, and for one of them regarding traffic. Typically, we locate another restaurant within 3 to 5 miles of an existing In-N-Out Burger. We've been in existence for almost 70 years. We're in California, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, and Texas. And we have, after almost 70 years of development, 310 restaurants. So we're not the fastest growing, and you won't quite find us on every corner like some other restaurants. But in this case here, this location is 1.9 miles away from our existing Daly City restaurant. We're doing that on purpose because we realize that that we need another facility nearby, and we need to kind of correct an issue that nobody was aware of and we weren't aware of when I stood before you 10 years ago.
You mean all that traffic that stretches around when we leave Planning Commission, we see up the corner?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And I have to take some responsibility for that. So when we found this particular piece of property, we were very excited about it. It's substantially larger than one we have here. We're not entertaining putting a Krispy Kreme donut in the same parking lot.
Thank you.
And so we've created a very long drive-through lane. One of the things that we do very successfully in all of our restaurants is once we get our queue started above 8 or 10 cars, we get actual individuals out there with handheld devices, and we take the orders to help this whole process move along. We would do the same here and take that chore on very seriously. That's very important. We would also, if we did stack beyond the 18, 19, 20 cars, which is not an all the time, everyday occurrence at the majority of our restaurants, and I understand, a little different here at Daly City. But we also have individuals out there to help direct traffic to make sure that people can get in and get out. And we find our customers be very courteous in doing that as well. We can stack on site, so I can stand before you and say we won't stack out onto Gellert at any time.
That is
Sure.
at least for me, because I live in the neighborhood, very much a major concern.
Yes, sir.
That it has been handled. You want to know about palm trees, don't you, Howard?
Well, that too.
So yes, and thank you. To answer the question of the palm trees, they currently are on our landscape plan at the curb area closest to the exit of our drive-through lane, and that triangular piece right there. So that's the current location of them.
I knew they would be there somewhere. So, back to the question of traffic.
Yes, sir.
If I may ask the same question I addressed to Mr. Van Lackhausen. So, for cars that are entering to park in the parking lot, right now, if there was an extended queue, they would have to work around the cars coming in and out of the two side areas to get into the parking lot.
Yes.
And so how do you propose to manage that, whether it's staff or signage or otherwise?
Yes, and I don't have a fancy pointer, so if you mind if I walk up and,
Oh, I can
okay.
try and help.
Great.
Or do you want to use this? Just
Oh,
take it.
that's fine. At the, what I guess we call the northerly entrance there, as the cars come in, they're going to hug that particular area there, so we can get up to 21 cars in that area. That is pretty much the maximum queue that we found through the traffic studies, and having another location 1.9 miles away, we believe that two restaurants in close proximity, that will satisfy us 99% of the time. If it goes beyond that, we will have an associate out in the driveway, and we will ask the individuals to circle around the triangle parking area in the other direction, through, up,
Oh, I see.
circle around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, circle all the way around, and then come back towards the main entrance
Right, and
and stack a couple of cars over there, so that, and we'll always keep open that entranceway, the northerly entranceway,
In and out of here.
by having an associate out there, so that people can easily go park and continue that radius movement. I'm sorry, I left the microphone.
We can hear you. Thank you.
That,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
okay?
Glenn, do you have any?
Yes, I do, but I would rather wait to hear, because I'm sure one of the other commissioners may have the same question I'm going to propose. So I'm just going to wait. I'll defer at this time, Mr. Chair. Yes, speaking of the queue and the not queue and the backing up, we know our experience on Sullivan Avenue. Very bad, and I've been there when your people out with the little handhelds.
Yes, sir.
Still, not only dangerous, it's nerve-wracking, because we have the motor vehicle on one side and then trying, so anyway, we're not gonna repeat that.
Yes, sir.
But, one thing, Sullivan is about 1/3 of the traffic flow that you have on Gellert. And come around Christmas and all that, I mean, I've been stuck in jams before you could even move on the holidays. Do you know the flow of traffic increases exponentially?
Yes.
And people want to get in and get out and get their hamburgers. Now, you have a very good point. You're going to have one of your personnel come on and say, okay, I'll take your order, and would you please go around that way? I want to be there for that, because I'm going to tell you, you have people coming in. Holidays are big on Gellert. Have you been there? You have been around the city in Gellert on holiday?
Yes.
From Ceremony Center Mall?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You understand it's
I
going to
do.
increase.
I do.
Okay, and the city has said, Michael, you said, as I read, the city will, and this is a famous, pardon me for saying, in 6 months we'll review. And it happens at 6 months we review, and I thought, do we fix it? See, I'm skittish with that.
Well, we have a specific measure that we would take after the 6-month review. It only relates to the potential vehicle conflicts at this driveway.
Right.
The
Well,
6-month review doesn't have anything to do with the vehicle queue, because we feel the queue is 18 vehicles plus anything that can be handled on site. It's a very different site than the.
Okay, but if there's, in 6 months, the citizens, I think there's citizens here that are going to have questions. They can, in 6 months, if the queue of 16 or 18 doesn't suffice and it comes out, the citizens, I'd like them to know, you can call planning or call code enforcement. No, I mean, I'm being very sensitive
Yeah.
about this, because I've been stuck on the other one. So I hear you, it sounds great.
Yes, sir.
That's my concern.
I take,
Mr. Chairman.
I take your comments seriously.
I would like to ask Mr. Ron here, when do you place your order before going in? What place?
In the drive-through lane, where the arrow is the approximate location. That's the menu order board. Can you point that out again? Right there. That's the menu
Oh,
order.
that's the menu.
Yes.
Can you
But
please-
however, that's when there are only 2 or 3 cars at low periods, when there aren't very many people in the drive-through lane. Once we exceed that, once 9, 10, 11 cars are there, then we have a person in the landscape area alongside the driveway taking orders further back, the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th.
Precisely, that's my question, because it's a matter of procedure and management. Because if you're going to place the order somewhere before the entrance, at least the food will be ready by the time they come in. You know what I'm, like entrance, can you point it at here? If you can put the order there, somewhere there, before they enter the queuing, at least the food will be ready at the time they go in. At the same time, you save a lot of time because people will not be queuing too much. And at the same time also, the food will be ready at the same time. People will not be queuing too long in that area. It's a proper, putting this in the right perspective, Your Honor, because, people are queuing because the order is there, and the food preparation, sometimes it takes a while. How many per minute do you think one car can go in and get out?
So we average between 45 seconds and 1 minute
Oh, it takes too long, the queuing.
per order.
You look at the Sullivan. Every day I pass by, there's a long line, because probably, I'm thinking about, you have a great food, mind you, but probably the management is not taking care of the food preparation, because the moment there's an order, at least it should take a little while, and then they can get it, so the queuing will not be too long. You know what I'm talking, where I'm coming from, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
And to attempt to respond to it, we have 310 restaurants, and we've tried a number of things over the 70 years. If we put the menu order board at the very entrance to the entire drive-through lane,
Not really, but at least.
we get individuals there who are not sure what they want to order. And then we get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars lined up behind them while they're trying to make up their mind, and then we have a real problem. The idea is to get them as far as you can in the drive-through queue. The reason that we put it at the 8th car is that we can be preparing the other orders, and the other people can be stacked behind it to be able to they can see the menu, they can be getting an idea of what they want. And so we're more efficient that way, and we've tried it many different ways, and it's been our experience that what we have now is probably the most efficient. We typically cook to order, so that if there's no one in front of you, you tell us what you want, and then we put the hamburger patty on the grill. We cook to order. So if there are very few cars there, it takes us longer because the food is cooking. As there are 9, 10, 11, 12 cars in the drive-through lane, we increase our speed of service because they are waiting a little bit longer to get to the pickup window.
Well, I can always say that there's a long queue because your product is good, and
Thank
people
you.
are waiting to going to get it whether they wait too long.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's only my point is just see to it that the queuing will not take too long.
Thank you,
Just
Commissioner.
some other food drive-through I know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if this question is for you. Well, first of all, let me ask, are you going to invade the hill any more than it's currently invaded? I mean, are you going to take out more of the hill below Cypress Point, or merely put in a retaining wall?
No, there'd be a decent portion of that would be excavated. It's enough just to create a 9-foot wall. So I don't know that it's really.
You're not going back toward Cypress Point, because those houses are right above it.
Yeah.
Actually, Your Honor, there's already a retaining wall because that is Sisler. where we used to have a meeting at the Daly City Host Lions Club. So you're going to take over you're going to destroy and rebuild that place, right, Mr.
Yes, we
Juan?
are. Yeah, that's right.
So there's a retaining wall already. There's a lot of space already at the back.
Yeah, I know the place. My other question is, in the traffic study, there is a sketch plan for a rather major expansion over the next few years of Saramani. Was that taken into consideration? I couldn't find it in the traffic study. I will admit I did not read every page because there was more than I could consume there.
Yeah, Chairman Crum, I've got to admit, I didn't read the whole thing either, and I have two
Shame on you.
I have two experts here. We have the traffic engineer who prepared it, and Jim Lockington is our project manager and is probably more familiar with the details, so.
Whoever you think would answer my question the best, bring them up.
I think the answer is yes. I mean, the city scoped out the scope of the traffic
We did.
study
Mm-hmm.
in great detail. We studied, I don't know, 60.
If you could, sir, please come up to the
So
microphone.
you'll be recorded.
Because we're on television too. Thank you.
Jim Lockington, representing In-N-Out Burger. So the traffic study scope included a look out to the project plus, I think, 30 or 35 years, and included all of the city's major capital improvement projects in the city's forecast. So that's about the detail I can give you on that. If that doesn't answer the question, we can have the traffic consultant come up and.
That's enough that it was considered. It was one of my concerns because there's going to be major increase in traffic at Saramani and Gellert, and also along in front of you guys as people want to go out and go south.
Yes.
And then there is also plans for a couple of hundred condominiums. There's a planned development along Saramani Boulevard, which also is going to put a strain on this area. That's correct.
Yes,
So
correct.
as long as that was in your 2035 figure that you had there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And
Anything further, gentlemen?
No, later.
can I just throw one thing in?
Yes.
When we were talking about the pinch points within the site circulation, I just did want to point out that none of the hard curb to hard curb pinch points within the site are any less than 25 or 26 feet wide. So even if we do have the 18 cars stacking into 19, 20, or 21, there's, a car is 8 feet wide, there's still 16 feet to the side of it for cars to go by.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. I will open the public hearing. The first person who wishes to speak is Brad Jones. Mr. Jones.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity to speak. I am a resident of Cypress Point, and I don't want to be the type of person that says, okay, but not in my neighborhood, but okay, but not in my neighborhood. I love In-N-Out Burger. I used to go a lot more over here around the corner before I got tired of the traffic, and I just started going to Habit Burger. Anyway, most of the questions that I had have been at least spoken of. I'm not sure they've been addressed, but they have been spoken to. One of my concerns is, they recently developed, as you look across the street from where this site is, they recently redeveloped that. And I think they did a great job. But again, I think you missed, as a planning commission, you missed the amount of traffic that was going to be in there. Right now, there's only one way to turn left onto Gellert from that complex, and it backs up, causes cross-traffic from the parking lots to back up, and during certain peak times, it's a mess. So forgive me, and I don't want to be insultive or anything, but when you said you've planned all this and you've looked at all this, that's a development that's only been there a couple of years now.
I would like to correct you with that information, because there is a turn left going to the main. There's a signal light going, probably just pass by and then turn left.
There's two lights that you can go left on?
Yes, you can. You can even U-turn. I'm always I'm very near to that residence because every time I go to the Bank of America, I turn left. There's a signal light. You can U-turn, and that is where the place is.
The intersection near the CVS and the Bank America?
Yes.
You cannot turn left from that.
No, not that. That is a signal light. After the turn left there's a signal light. So there are two left lane there.
Brad, you're talking about the one down that basically the road runs into the development down by Party City. It's
Correct.
It's the one signal, and those two, both the west and the east, come out at the same time. My favorite bugaboo in the neighborhood.
That's turn left. So
Well, I'll have to go by and take a look at it. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
better,
I'm sure
better.
you're probably correct. That,
I
you
have
know,
been doing that every now and then.
Yeah, and I've only lived here 4 years, so. But I know, no matter where I'm at, it seems like I gotta go all the way down to that intersection in order to make a left. I've quit going left. I just go around and then go all the way around.
Our driving habits are maybe not relevant to this. We'd like to hear your other concerns.
Okay.
Can you put the site map back up again? Okay. I had a concern about, particularly when you mentioned moving the sign over, that was going to direct more traffic out towards Gellert. If you have a so-called traffic cop there to direct it back around, I suppose that does in a way address that issue. But I've been in some of these parking lots too, that when you've got traffic from the drive-in behind your car and you're in one of those parking spots, you just almost can't get out. And one of the places, and it's got parking on both sides of the driveway, but the Taco Bell up on the Taco Bell Kentucky Fried Chicken up on the where the Pacific Supermarket is, okay? If they start getting a line in their drive-through, you almost can't get out of the parking spots, you know? And some people are courteous and let you in, and some people aren't, you know? So if you start moving that line back through that parking lot, you know, I'm concerned about the congestion that could cause. The other thing is the noise. Be quite honest with you, we went through, what, a year and a half of construction on the hospital. I'm not quite sure what they're doing on the shell site. It looks like they're just digging holes and filling them up and digging holes and filling them up. Now, I assume you found some gas in the ground. I've not heard anything about it. I haven't been warned that that's an issue or what's going on. And now we're getting ready to develop another site. This is going to be 3 or 4 years of construction going on, and I kind of feel like what happened to peaceful enjoyment, because we don't have it there. I'm retired, I'm home all day, but right now that shell site is going 6 days a week. So, and quite honestly, I'd like a little break. I'm not against progress, but I would certainly like a little break from the noise.
Thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Brad. Have a good evening. Carol Conroy. Carol, I will remind you, you have 2 minutes, Ms. Deere.
Thank you. I've noticed no one else has been limited to 2 minutes. In my day, I would have been a candidate for transitional kindergarten, so I hope you'll indulge me for at least a few minutes here. I'm Carol Conroy, former postmaster of Daly City. I'm a 25-year Daly City resident, and I live at Cypress Point. I'm here tonight to represent the 80 homeowners at Cypress Point, and that's why if you'd give me an extra minute, I sure appreciate it, because I represent a community tonight. We got blindsided by this. We've gotten very little notice, and I'm not prepared to address this. This is the first time I've seen it. And I appreciate that In-N-Out Burger has met with the Chinese hospital and other people. They have not met with Cypress Point homeowners. I would like to note that none of these pictures really depict Cypress Point and how it's situated with this development. I know that you know. I know that, I totally get that you do. I'm not sure all the commission does. And when you take a picture of our front entrance, it does not in any way depict the close proximity that these homes have to what you're talking about. There's also a factor that it's on a hill. And there's I'm sure as people who understand building and noise and these issues, there's a canyon effect, and noise is always accelerated, and when it goes up a hill, it gets louder. There's a canyon effect from anything that's under our homes, and we suffer a lot in Cypress Point from noise and obviously the development that's been going on. So anyway, I represent this townhome community. We live immediately behind this project, within hundreds of feet. In some cases, I think it would be less than that, actually. Most of our residents are unaware that due to last minute notice. So we're asking you at a minimum, please, to postpone any action on this until the surrounding businesses and homeowners have been notified of this proposal and have had the opportunity to address you, study it, and perhaps engage counsel if they feel that's necessary. Needless to say, we stand in total opposition to this project, which will effectively rob all of us of our home values, and for at least some of the Cypress Point homeowners will completely eliminate any quality of life or enjoyable use of their homes.
Thank you, Carol.
And could I just close out?
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for letting everybody else have their say, and not Cypress Point.
Michael, I've got a question. She brought up a very good point about notice. Wouldn't they have received the normal notice?
300 feet?
Yes. The city provided notice to all property owners within 300 feet of the boundaries of this property.
So that would include Cypress Point?
Yes.
Well, part of it.
That's
Well,
right,
whatever
part of
part's
it.
going to be
The
affected.
people that
Yeah.
get directly
All
about
right,
it,
so
for
that
sure.
they get a mailed notice? Okay.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So
Motion.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Could I have a motion to adopt the findings as outlined herein?
No motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Could I have a motion to affirm the project is categorically exempt for section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And could I have a motion to approve use permit UPR 8-15-11-316?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, no, we need a
We have
roll
to
Roll
call.
call, roll call.
Yes, I hadn't turned the paper yet.
Oops.
Roll call.
Edelman,
Yes.
Sylvester,
No.
Talarico,
Yes.
Satori,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes. Number 4 on the agenda, use permit UPR 11-15-11-833. Michael.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This is a request by Enterprise Rent-A-Car to operate a defueling facility in an existing warehouse structure at the Cow Palace in the Bayshore neighborhood. The request requires a use permit because of the defueling facility. We're going to talk generally about the project. Vehicle storage is a major component of the project. That does not require a use permit, just for clarification. So this is basically whether they can defuel vehicles or not. So you probably know where the Cow Palace is, up Geneva Avenue. The whole site is not the whole Cow Palace, but for purposes of public noticing, we provided 300-foot notice to all property owners within 300 feet.
So the site is.
Yeah, we'll go over the exact parameters. Here's a photograph of the vehicle storage that has actually already begun at the site, as well as the warehouses that would be used for the defueling. Here's a photograph of Rio Verde Street looking north, just to provide the Planning Commission with some context. To the east are single-family detached homes. Project overview is a proposal to defuel vehicles that are being stored while awaiting sale at off-site locations. We've been asked from numerous people whether this actually selling cars at this location, and the answer is no. There's no cars being sold at this location. There are 100 to 200 vehicles being stored for defueling. There are approximately twice that many being stored generally. The height of storage actually occurs in the fall to winter months after the peak season of rental. Enterprise needs a place to put its vehicles, and this is where they put them. Because they need to defuel some of them before they're sold, they propose this facility to take gasoline out of the cars, keep, of course, some gasoline in them to get them to the point of sale. But the thought is that storing vehicles for a long period of time with fuel in them isn't a good thing. So that's why they are taking the
These are
gasoline.
then vehicles they're retiring from the fleet.
They're gonna, and the applicant can clarify, but retiring and/or offering for sale or keeping to use again for rental, I believe. The proposal is to defuel 5 vehicles at a time within a bermed area. There's a 500-gallon storage tank that would hold the gasoline taken out of the vehicles. Proposed hours of operation are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So this is, so the whole Cow Palace is, of course, the bigger site. But the enterprise lease boundary is essentially this area. And that residential neighborhood that we'd shown you in the photograph is at the bottom of the screen. So the vehicles being stored here, and that warehouse that would be used as part of the defueling is located here. Here's a site plan showing the car storage. And the defueling that's actually the subject of the use permit is located here in these existing warehouse building. The site access is provided from Martin Street here. Very few vehicles enter the site from the front of the Cow Palace main entry. Most of it's from this entrance. This provides a detail of the defueling operation. Again, 5 cars at a time inside that existing warehouse building. Here's the storage tank. Use permit considerations, just like any of the other use permits. There's actually very little infrastructure necessary aside from roadways leading to the site. There are existing bathrooms that provide use for the employees. This proposed use is seen by staff as a good, interim use until ultimate, redevelopment of the Cow Palace, should it ever occur, happens.
Don't say should it ever.
When?
So the only real topic we looked at here is the impact of the city storm drain system in the event of spillage. Of course, we wouldn't want any gasoline entering the city storm drain system. The city engineers required that a sufficient berm be established around the cars being defueled to prevent any sort of spill from either the vehicles or the tank that's holding the fuel. And that's a condition of approval from the city engineer and the fire department as well. City staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the findings, affirm the environmental assessment, and approve the use permit. If there's any questions, we're of course able to answer those, and the applicants is present as well.
Through the chair, just one, may I ask, just quick, 500-gallon tank, how often would that be drained out? That's 500 gallons is not much considering how many cars you're gonna do.
Yeah.
So do we have an idea?
There's probably more than one tank involved, and those are actually not drained out of the site. The tanks are off-hauled.
Oh, okay, so they're more
That's
mobile.
our
they're
understanding.
mobile tanks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The tanks are
So they're
taken
vehicle
away.
already, tanker trucks, once they're full,
Truck
they
will come and
out.
get
Very-
the-
That's even better. Thank you.
Take it away.
Like that.
Commissioner?
I'm okay.
Yes, my question, so I'm done.
I have nothing. Then let's open the public hearing. Rachel, you're on.
Thank you, Commissioners. Howard, good to see you. It's been a while.
Haven't seen you for a while.
I'm a 20-year resident of the Bay Ridge subdivision, which is directly behind the Cow Palace. And the reason I came tonight was for this particular agenda item. However, listening to the topics that have preceded this particular topic, I'm very concerned about my neighborhood. You're looking at putting in an additional 186 homes with these 2 new subdivisions. Multiply that by 4, you're looking at probably another 1,000 residents in that area. So one concern, let me address, is this enterprise as far as the 500-gallon tanks. You're specifying that it is going to be tankers, not a permanent tank that's going to be there with 500 gallons constantly. So the safety of having 500 gallons of fuel in that neighborhood, has someone monitored how that's going to be maintained? Who's going to control that? I mean, that area is a little sketchy when you get into Lower Geneva, and I just worried about 500 gallons of fuel sitting there and access to vandalism and such. So I want to make sure that that's going to be controlled and monitored. Also, the entrance to this area is on Martin Street, which sits directly across the street from the Duluth Boys and Girls Club. Are these cars going to be moved in individually? Are they going to be moved in on a car carrier? You know, you've got children crossing that street with their parents. So there's concern as far as how are the children going to be cared for with all that movement of cars. So those are my two very big concerns based on what I'm hearing here tonight. But basically, if we're, you know, we laughed about if the Cow Palace will ever be developed or sold or what have you. That's a concern now, not only that you're dealing with Enterprise, allowing them to use this spot for storing vehicles. How about bringing some amenities to our neighborhood that we desperately need? And if you're going to put 1,000 more residents into our neighborhood, where's our supermarkets? Where's our banks? Where's, you know, all the basic amenities that a neighborhood needs? We have senior citizens in our neighborhood now that probably take 2 or 3 buses just to get to a basic grocery store. You've got senior citizens doing that. You know, I spend probably over $1,000 a month in South San Francisco because I work there. Because once I get to Bay Ridge, there's nothing in my hill. So please, take that into your planning. I mean, this is a planning commission. Take that into your planning when you're looking at these types of projects. But maintain the safety of our neighborhood with these cars being defueled there. But also, please, take into consideration what a neighborhood needs to function on a daily basis. You're a planning commission. Plan correctly.
Thank you very much. Urban, come forward, please.
Hi, I'm Herb Ng, and I'm a real estate agent that sells homes in the Bayshore neighborhood. And basically, I was looking at some of these photos, and I noticed that the photos that you're using shows no cars parked there, meaning from the immediate photo. Actually, Rio Verde Street is a lot more narrower street. So basically, you have these big transport trucks coming up Rio Verde. You have kids in the neighborhood. You know, it's not a safe environment. And I noticed that the trucks do not enter from, say, Martin Street, do not enter from Geneva Avenue. They came in up Rio Verde. And I think that's really not a safe environment for the kids, okay, or residents. There's fire station over there. There's boys and clubs, a girls club over there. So I'd like to see that if you can maybe perhaps change the directions of the trucks. Okay, that's one idea. Maybe something from the Cow Palace area. So, and this is basically a residential neighborhood. We don't have big trucks going in and out.
I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jack Tan.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jack Tan. I live in 360 View Street. My backyard just close to the Cow Palace. And then every time when they shipping the car shipping to the Texas. Yesterday I took a picture and then drive from the View Street to the Martin. And they block the street. And also sometimes they block the community center parking lot and the fire station exit. That's very dangerous. And sometimes they moving shipping the car. It's not only about 160 to 400 and more. They use that vehicle. See, they like there, the corner of the Verde and Martin. Just yesterday, I took the picture. Sometimes they ship the night car to the Texas. I know there they had the community center parking lot in the same asset. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thomas Chen.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, most of the people speak what I want to say. I'm the first, I can say I'm the first hand people can say that because my living room can see the entrance from the Martin Street. Sometimes the delivery trucks, I don't know, they operate for almost a year. I don't know, do they have a permit for the last year they operate? I only received the notice this time. First time I saw the truck, they operate around 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and then they just load the car like that and then woke up everybody. And then the Martin Street, when the truck, because it's operated by one driver and then also the one who drives the car and load the car, they block the crosswalk. So I see the kid just go around with the driver just unload the truck because you know there's only one driver in the zone. And it's really dangerous. Sometimes the fire station there, if they go to the west, they just totally block it. They need to turn around. This is really dangerous, okay? And I know our community, the Bayshore, is really small compared to the other Daly City district. We got small number, we never unheard. But thank you for the city. They do the last 10 years, they build the new community, they put the new road, and everything they try to make it. But now they use this one, this is really dangerous. I am afraid they will contaminate the soil because the portable tank, just like the Midway, the housing department, it takes them how long, how many times to clean up. You guys probably know that too. That's why if they contaminate it in the future, they try to build a residential home or supermarket, we get a big troubles.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm the first time to see it every night. Yeah.
Mr. Chen. I beg your pardon, Ms. Cheng.
Good evening. I want to oppose this project because I feel like having a gasoline tank there is gonna cause a lot of danger because gasoline is a flammable liquid, as we all know, and then the vapor that the gasoline produces is also flammable, and they can ignite at room temperature or just by static discharge. So like in the Cow Palace area, it's always under direct sunlight, so it's very dangerous for the neighborhood when you have open sunlight towards the gasoline storage. And then also gasoline is a and its vapor is can cause a lot of health problems to the neighborhood around because it's a irritant. It can cause dermatitis, and then it can be toxic to the nervous system, and then it can cause dizziness, drowsiness, and even when gasoline can accumulate in a confined area, it can also cause danger too. So I really, and then also with all the car moving around like the Cow Palace areas, it's gonna create a lot of noise. So I guess that's the main reason why I oppose this plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I could.
Do you want to start, because it's come this way?
Shouldn't we close the public hearing?
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification. Mike, in this gasoline depot that you're going to build, is this like a gasoline station?
No, it's not like a gasoline station. There's no gasoline sold. The gasoline's removed from the vehicles and then stored until it can be transported to off-site locations.
You think there is no danger to that?
Well, the fire department's actually added some conditions of approval requiring that the applicant obtain the proper county permits for the gasoline storage, as well as complying with the city's own regulations about storing gasoline. So if those regulations are complied with, there should be no danger.
It's as safe as it can be.
Yeah, just like a gasoline station. That's my point. We have a lot of gasoline stations here in the city, so I don't see any problem. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
So,
yeah.
through the chair, if I might address,
Certainly.
some of the concerns from residents around the area, as well as a concern that I have, and we're distinctly represented by the photographs, thank you, sir, for bringing those in, that Daly City does have some ability to control is the traffic in and out through the entrances, parking on the public streets. Even though we're limited as far as what we can do within the confines of the Cow Palace, on Daly City public streets, we do have some control for traffic.
If I may, could we have them put up the slide you just showed with all the cars in it?
The rows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the concern that I have the most concern, or the concern I have the most concern about, the thing that I have the most concern about is the danger to, the danger of blocking the streets, as well as the danger to people walking along the streets, especially children, which is always a concern. I had a personal tragedy in my family with a truck and my youngest sister, so it really hits home with me. So I would like to add some sort of additional condition or study that would provide a safe way for the trucks dropping off the cars, picking up the cars, as well as a time limit. I mean, 1 o'clock in the morning for cars unloading is unreasonable. Yeah, but it's unreasonable. So that's my comment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel very strongly there should be a condition. There's no reason they can't configure this so that they can bring these trucks inside to download. We had a concern with the fire and fire.
Perhaps it would be a good idea to have the applicant address this particular issue. Is there some reason why the semis are
Yeah,
parking
I
in the
think it's
street and
better.
not on the side?
Better.
Yes, so we can
ask you.
I mean, one on the street.
We haven't really grilled an applicant
No.
yet today.
Yeah, grill me.
Win.
Yeah, my name's Doug Couture. I'm with Enterprise Rent a Car, and thank you for letting me talk. And hopefully, I can address most of these situations that have come up. With regards to us parking here, like I said, it was not a conditioned piece, so we have been there for about a year now, parking those vehicles. Because of the fact that we can't use Geneva and the main entrance to the Cow Palace, we are using that back entrance, which is from Martin Avenue. And it is a narrow driveway up that way. So when we first started having cars going up there, the transport trucks would make a left turn and go down Rio Verde, I believe. And so we had gotten notice from the city saying, hey, that is not allowed, you need to make the right turn. So what we had did was we actually widened that driveway going up Martin Avenue so that the transport trucks could make the right turn. We still had problems, and these transport trucks are third-party vendors that come in, and we had a no left turn sign put up there. I had widened the driveway. It said, hey, you got to make the right turn onto Martin Avenue. They're still make the left turn, right? So we had talked with the Cow Palace and said, you know what, that the steepness of the driveway and being able to make a right turn with the transport trucks is not working out. So we need to use one of your other exits more towards the north. So what we had did, and what one of the gentlemen talked about, was the fact with the Boys and Girls Club that they park in an upper lot there as well, that the Cow Palace allows them to park there. We had taken out some of those parking stalls so that the transport trucks could make the right turn before they get to the very top of Martin and go out an alternate entrance or exit. So that takes away the possibility of these transport trucks going left on Martin and then going down residential areas.
If I may, I would
Yes.
refer you to that picture.
Yeah, and I
Parked on Martin, sir.
yeah, and I will address that situation because 99% of the time the transport truck should be inside of our.
Yeah, but I don't like it
right away.
happening 1% of the time.
I agree, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen. In fact, I'm hearing that, 3 in the morning should not happen. I mean, I would say, yeah, I don't know what situation that was, but I will say that should not happen. I do want to address the situation with these tanks. They are above ground, portable, mobile tanks, so they're much safer than any gas station when you have underground storage tanks. The Cow Palace has 500-gallon gasoline tanks there currently. So this is just portable mobile tanks that we would take off-site and.
Now, that's gonna be a double tanker truck going off-site? too?
Correct.
Are they gonna be able to make turns?
Yes, yes, they will. I'm positive that we will be able to get those out. They will take it to San Francisco Airport and defuel from there. So we do understand the situations and we do understand the concerns from the community regarding the transport trucks, and we are addressing that situation. And then with regards to, like I said, the defueling of the tanks, I will say that when we first started here, we were under the impression that we were under the state. That's what the Cow Palace had told us. So we had the state fire marshal come in and approve these tanks. We got an SPCC plan from a certified engineer, which is the spill prevention countermeasure and control plan. And then Daly City had come to us and said, whoa, wait, you're not part of the state, you're part of Daly City. So we had stopped immediately once Daly City had told us that you needed a conditional use. So this is why we're here. And we will make sure that all plans, in fact, we've had quite a few discussions with the environmental council here, that we will make sure that defueling will happen in the utmost of environmental policies, so that I will say that there's no danger, as like you were saying, any other danger at a gas station.
Through the chair. What's your first name, please?
Doug?
Doug.
Yes.
I hear you, and I hear one thing, third-party vendor truckers, okay?
Yes.
You can tell us, and you can tell everything, you can put a sign.
Right.
But you had already 2 major infractions. 1 a.m., 3 a.m., uncalled for, not to be done, and you're saying you'll look
Right.
into it. Well, it's already done. And the unloading in the street where kids are, uncalled for. And you said you have a sign, take right, and still the truckers do that. How can I depend on you stopping this?
Well, obviously, we want to make sure that we're here and we understand that you can, take this away from us at all, and we definitely need this. And this is I will tell you that this part of the Cow Palace, I'm sure you know that, was yeah, I mean, it's an area that has never been used. It's used twice a year for the rodeo and for the Dickens Fair, right? So the Cow Palace loves that we're here, but I think from a security standpoint, we have from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m., we have motion cameras on the site. We have fixed the lighting that the Cow Palace had there seemed like the 1930s. We have everything that's, from a security standpoint, I think it's much safer now than it was when it was just an abandoned parking lot that was not lit and it was not secure, and probably a lot of
No, I understand.
worse
And I
things
was
can
just-
happen.
My thing is, for the people here, and for the concerns, thank you for the pictures, that just blew me away.
Yeah.
Michael, how can, without adding a condition of approval or whatever, how can we ask that, we can't, no, for the citizens? In other words, I'm depending on your
Sure.
word, and you're depending on me believing you, and that's all nice, but when it happens again, and that a truck is in the middle of the street and they can't move, do you want to give them your number?
Sure.
Well,
I mean, it has to be
no, honestly, I don't see why we can't add, give Enterprise a little gentle help and just add conditions they can live with, but also conditions that reflect the concerns of the neighborhood. This area of the Bay Shore is very, I mean, you literally live in your neighbor's pocket.
Right.
They're very close, they're small streets. And I think that's what's called for here, because, let's face it, the practice so far has not proved out that, be it third-party vendors or whatever, they're still yours and you're responsible for them.
Sure.
And I think a little gentle help from us and the council is what's called for here.
So one of the things that we could do is place a condition of approval limiting the hours of the vehicle delivery, because I mean it's tied to the defueling operation. So we have to tie whatever we condition to vehicles being defueled. So generally, if there's an operational hour, again as we had indicated in the presentation, we should hold the operation to these hours.
You have the hours, the working hours there.
Right. But this would,
it's-
any documented delivery in the middle of the night would be a violation of the use permit. So that's, a step we could take. Just sort of curious if any of the residents have called the police department about the unloading of vehicles in the street, because I just guess that that's not legal. Because that would be. I think a nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Geneva. Martin is too tight. Geneva is okay.
To us, that's sort of an enforcement, traffic enforcement issue. If vehicles are being unloaded in the middle of the street, I mean, it seemed like the easiest way to get that resolved would be to call for a ticket.
Okay.
So.
The only thing I could think of there is that it's probably a loading of the cars because that transport truck could not make the right turn. So they were loading the cars on Martin, which we will address and make sure that doesn't happen.
So, through the chair, so we're talking about conditions of approval for specific hours for entering and leaving the property with vehicles, correct? And,
Loading them in the
well,
street.
loading or unloading, not in the street, but within the property itself. That I would also like to add some sort of signage for a phone number to call, a 24-hour phone number to call for infractions, as well as to notify the police department, because signage would help with that, so that people don't have to figure out who to call when there's a problem.
Well, yeah, because there's no real, that I know of, functioning neighborhood association there, and since there isn't, that would, anybody that saw it then would know what to do.
Right. And then the third would be for the planning department staff to confer with the police department as far as what is legal and not legal as far as the streets, so that that's communicated clearly to the applicant.
I think that's actually a key condition of approval. We will check with police and place that as a condition of approval, that the applicant shall be aware that unloading vehicles in the public street is not legal, if that is in fact the case, and I gotta think it is the case.
Right.
It's not legal.
Yeah, that's the
And
simple
is
language,
a
that's all we
ticketable sort of offense, and should residents see that happening, I mean, that would be a pretty quick remedy, I'd imagine.
Exactly.
Those aren't too draconian.
No, no.
We're an awfully kindly
Like-
group. when it
like you
gets
said,
to
they're
this
third
time,
party,
we
ticket
wanna
'em.
get out.
Just one question.
Yeah, one more. No, I just say, because.
No.
Okay.
No.
Through the chair,
Yes.
have they been working on this without without us?
Well, I think just as Mr. Hattori indicated, there was a belief that they operated under the state.
Oh, I'm sorry. The
Right,
state, yeah.
and
But
then
we
they
haven't-
became aware that the
Yeah.
city required a use permit
We
for the
immediately
defueling.
stopped the
I
defueling.
got-
And they did
I
stop
forgot
it.
that, yeah, that's
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the pictures, and I think once is too much. Had we not had those pictures to see the flagrant violation, and I'm concerned with our conditions if there will actually be enforcement. Mike, if you would, when you talk to Daly City Police, ask them about the section of 24-400A of the California Vehicle Code, and if that can be enforced. That's impeding the flow of traffic. Yeah, and ma'am, you had came up and brought up a good point, and I'm sorry I didn't beg to ask that question earlier, because I've driven down that area on Carter Street. I just wanted to address this, and I said to myself, where do you folks shop? And, you know, so I think you're right. I think we need to be cognizant of that in the future. I just wanted to bring that point up. So I was about to vote no on this. I'm about to, but unless you can prove to me there's some sort of enforcement that's going to be done to satisfy these folks that they're not going to be calling a bogus number and nothing happens, but that taking of the picture was worth 1,000 words to me. So just, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anything else?
Well, just speaking aloud, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, not too long ago, about probably when I was still a new member here in the Planning Commission in 2000, there was already a part of the general plan with Terry Sedic, I remember, to improve this place. Like this area, there was supposed to be a supermarket to be put it in, but I don't know what happened. Probably because of the investor doesn't want to inject money or what. Because what I have noticed here in Daly City now, just like in here in the parking area of Toyota, we are giving way. This is a top dollar place, and now we are giving again the Cow Palace as a top dollar place again for parking. So, where is the city going for the development of this area? Because to me, this is very basic, just like the question of Rachel here, that where's the basic amenities, especially in that area? So I'm just speaking aloud. So my point here is, as a planning commission, yeah, we have to have a vision also, not just like entertaining parking places for stores. I know that because the enterprises want to have conduct business with us because you have a good business here in Mission, so I appreciate that. But the point is, we should think more of a better planning for the city, especially for the people. This, to me, the Bayshore seems to be the most neglected area in this city. So I'm just speaking aloud about this. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the findings as outlined herein?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I have a motion to affirm the project is categorically exempt per section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to approve use permit UPR 815-11-833, subject to the findings and conditions outlined herein and as amended?
Yes.
A point of question of privilege, Your Honor, before we vote. I would like to know how many years are we going to give this? How many do we is it unlimited or is it 5 years?
There's no proposal to limit the duration of the use.
Because if the city wants to take over to develop the area, where do we stand, Your Honor?
Well, if I might interject in
I think we're getting way off.
the report
point.
actually
Pardon
states
me.
that it's a period of 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, for clarification, it says the use permit must be acted upon within
1 year.
1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We have, do we have a second?
Yeah,
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Edelman,
Yes.
Sylvester,
Yes.
Tallarico,
No.
Satori,
Yes.
Crump.
Yes. Michael, it's safe to presume, is it not, if we were so lucky as someone actually came in with a plan to put a market in there, we wouldn't let them out till labor signs will be delivered?
Correct. I must say that at the end of last year, the Cow Palace did issue an RFP and an RFQ to invite developers to submit proposals for the parking lot at the corner of Geneva and Carter Street. I believe there were 2 developers that submitted an initial interest, and then they quickly withdrew their proposals. So unfortunately, the city can only respond to developers proposing development on private property. We do not own the Cow Palace. We don't have the ability to own the Cow Palace. It is a state facility. The city did go to the state before to beg them to deem it a surplus property, but unfortunately that didn't work out. So we are sort of reliant on the Cow Palace having interest in developing their own property.
Municipalities have certain powers, but we can't go to Safeway and say, thou shalt build.
Just one question, may I ask, and this is concerning that regulation that the commissioner mentioned about, can we be notified if that's going, in other words, can we get some information back from planning that says that can be read, those parking on that street and letting out, is it enforcement or not?
There'll be a discussion in the staff report that goes to the city council, and we could
All right, that's fine.
forward that to
Oh,
you.
that's fine, that's fine.
Have any communications from staff?
Yes, for me, I'll be out of town on the meeting in March.
We'll talk about you.
Good.
Acquisitions, vacations, et cetera. Motion to
Mr.
adjourn.
Chairman,
So move.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I would like to move that to honor the late Honorable Council Member, former Mayor Carl Platt, who died last January 2016, and let it be on record to inform the family that we condole, as a city of Daly City, taking pride of her as being a former member of this great city. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Did I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Believe it or not, we're Hey, we did it in under 2.5 hours.